Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Hello. We
Yay!
we did it, Joe. Chat, everybody say hello to Dr. Yen. Dr. Yen, hello. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Happy to be here.
So we have everybody in here, so it's now we can actually talk and people can get to know who you are and what you do. So chat, this is Dr. Yen. Please make sure in the chats we're showing as much respect as we can. Just going over the ground rules for everybody. Please make sure language is good and all of that stuff. We are live on Instagram, Twitch, and on YouTube, so all of the streams are up and running. Dr. Yan, if you could tell us a little bit about who you are, so that chat can get to know you.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. And I grew up in the Bay Area, California, heart of Silicon Valley. Went to MIT, froze my butt off, and said, no more East Coast for me. And then UCSF for medical school, Children's Oakland for pediatrics, and then back to UCSF to specialize in teenagers, what we call sex, drugs, rock and roll, little acne, some sports medicine. And then to get all the degrees in the Bay Area, went to Cal, go Bears, where I got a master's in public health, focusing on childhood obesity, and then finished up at Stanford, where I'm a clinical associate professor in the Department of Pediatrics and the Division of Adolescent Medicine. And then I also co-founded Pandia Health. We are the only women-founded, women-led, the only doctor-founded, doctor-led birth control and menopause, asynchronous telemedicine, and pharmacy under one roof.
Amazing. So can you tell us a little bit just about like Pandia Health specifically, how you came to found that and what Pandia Health is like, what your mission is over there?
Yeah. I was giving a lecture to a bunch of doctors 11 years ago. Why don't women take their birth control? And one of the top reasons was didn't have it in their hand, didn't have time to run the pharmacy every single month from age 15 to 52. And I'm all about hashtags. So hashtag better things to do. And my friend Perlini was like, hey, we can solve this. We will just ship women birth control and keep shipping it until they tell us to stop. And then we ran ads, free birth control delivery, and 60% of the people that responded did not have a prescription. And I'm like, do you not know you need a prescription? Thank goodness I'm a doctor. And so I was like, fine, I will write your prescription. And so thus that part of Pandia Health was born. And then I hit menopause. All my friends were like, menopause. And I'm like, yes, I will find the best treatment for me and I will share it with all of you. And in building our 100% physician team, we picked up two OB-GYNs with 20 plus years experience each in menopause. And I was like, you will lead our team. You will teach us all to be awesome like you. And the goal of Pandia Health is no one runs out of birth control in our watch, and bringing expert women's healthcare to wherever you have internet and a mailbox. It's quite economical. $35 once a year to use our 100% doctors with unlimited follow-up for birth control. And then for menopause, we charge more, $35 a month, minimum 1 year subscription. We have more expensive subscriptions if you do fewer months.
Amazing. And I do have, if you are watching on a screen separate of your devices, if you look on the side of the screen, you will see a QR code that will take you directly to Pandia Health's website. So you can go learn more and get more information. The other QR code right next to Dr. Yen will take you to her social pages. So scan those QR codes, go and follow, go in and get and learn and get the research in. Okay, guys, making sure everybody's aware. And if you are in chat and you have a question for Dr. Yen, feel free to type it in, ask the question in the YouTube chat. We're going to be taking questions at the end of the call. Okay, so everybody knows what we're doing. Continuing on, Dr. Yen, I know there's a petition that's going around. Can you tell us a little bit about that petition that's going between Pandia Health and Turn Up Activism?
Yes. So TurnUp is this great nonprofit that activates high school seniors and college students to get registered and to vote and to know what, inflames, makes you passionate, to make sure you protect the vote and the things that you care about. And so my daughters were applying to college, and I was like, some bad stuff's going down. And I don't know if I'd want to be in a state where, if God forbid, unfortunately, the statistic is 1 in 4 college women will get graped, as they say. And unfortunately, it would suck to leave the state to get things taken care of and then come back to the state and then be put in jail. And that's like insult to injury, right? Like, not only were this bad thing happened to you, but then you had to take care of it. And then you came back and then you go to jail. And so we came up with this petition to the governors of these states that are anti-reproductive rights, anti-religious freedom, anti-people with uteruses deciding what happens to their bodies, and the governors of the state saying, we're not applying to your state unless you respect bodily autonomy, respect reproductive rights. And so the example I give is my daughter, brilliant computer scientist, probably going to crush it out there, hopefully someday. Not going to apply, unfortunately, Georgia Tech. Not going to apply to Rice. Not going to apply to those states where bad things can happen to her because, unfortunately, she has a uterus.
Yeah. Well, where can people find easy access to this petition so that they can actually sign it and put their names to this?
Yes, thank you so much. Please get out the word. It's turnup.us/petition. So turn up like show up, and then .us, America, and then /petition. And if you all could sign it, share it, anybody who believes that, these states shouldn't treat people this way, anybody who might apply for any kind of school in that state, that's the message we're sending.
I'm going to, while we're talking, I'm going to get that up on the screen for people just so that they'll have that and they can click on that themselves. So I'll work on getting that while we continue to have our discussion.
Yeah.
Um, Continuing on, Dr. Yen, I know that there was questions you wanted to ask as well. Um, so if you wanted to go ahead with any of those.
Yeah, and Jovan, what made you such an activist in supporting reproductive rights? I love male allies.
So I and I've always been in support of reproductive rights, and it's mostly been because I, as somebody who is black, I know firsthand what it is like to have any sort of your autonomy stripped. So I'm a pretty staunch supporter in bodily autonomy, 100%. So that's really what drove me and has continued to drive me in sort of the reproductive rights fight. What about you? What has driven you? What drove you to be such a large reproductive rights advocate?
I think I'm less magnanimous than you. I'm more selfish. I was a 15-year-old sexually active teenager and pre med, and I was like, I cannot get pregnant during college, medical school, high school. And if I do, then I better be able to decide what happens to my body. And so I was passionately pro confidential reproductive health services, comprehensive sex ed, adolescents' rights to confidential reproductive health services, adolescents' rights to abortion. Because if I use the condom and birth control pill and I still ended up pregnant, I better be able to decide what happened to my body.
Well, I did. That is, I think a very good reason. Um, just so everyone knows, I did put the link up for the petition, so you can see that over on the side. This would be my left, but I think it's your right,
Yes.
chat.
All
I think
right.
it's your right if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep.
So you'll find that over there. So if you want to click and sign that petition, that's well, you can't click the screen, but type that type that link in, and you can get to the petition there. And remember to put your questions in case you have anything you want to ask Dr. Yen. I'm looking at all the chats, so type in those questions. Especially if you're on YouTube, let us know those questions. Okay. Um, And Dr. Yen, did you have any other questions that you wanted to go over?
How did you get politically active? Because I see so many youth that are like, there's no hope. One vote doesn't make a difference. Why should I care?
Well, so I wasn't super politically active throughout like high school and everything. It wasn't until I actually started doing musical theater and started becoming friends with people who were LGBTQ and learning that like, oh, these people are struggling, because when I got into it, it was 2011, so we hadn't even uh past Obergefell v. Hodges yet. So there was still no gay marriage or anything. So meeting people who were from a different background and learning that they had struggles beyond um, my limited worldview, and then starting to learn the history of my people, starting to learn the history of other people, it made me go, oh, okay, there is something deeper here. And then around 2016, 2015, when uh, Trump ran against Hillary Clinton, that's when I started going, okay, this feels something feels off here. This doesn't feel right. And then around 2020, I started really getting in during the next election, because I was like, I think I was so shocked of him getting elected that the shock of
Mhm.
that said, okay, I need to really focus on politics. It's not something that I can just happen in the background behind me. So that's what really drove me into politics. Was honestly, I think like a lot of people, Donald Trump woke me up and made me go, okay, we need to pay attention to these things.
Yes. No, I mean, maybe the one positive thing, but totally not worth all the negatives that we are getting. Everything
Yeah,
is on fire. And as they
exactly.
said, first they came for X, then they came for Y, then they came for Z, and then they came for me. And there was no one left to fight
Hmm.
because they had taken everyone else away. And it's just like, this administration should be about helping women and children, but instead what they're doing is coming after women and children. That, as a pediatrician, it blew my mind with this big BS bill that they were cutting Medicaid, and I believe it's 49% of US children are on Medicaid, which, one, is a travesty, but
Hmm.
two, then how dare you cut it? We are a rich enough country that we should cover our children, and that we should not be, destroying families and not taking care of our future's health.
Yeah, and it goes even deeper than that. I mean, look at the stripping back of research, stripping back of the funds for. I mean, they're stripping back funds of the mRNA vaccine, even though we've seen very recently positive tests for the mRNA vaccines in things like type 1 diabetes, in things
Yeah.
like cancer research. And they're stripping back all of these things. They're voting against, like you said, Medicaid and Medicare. They're voting against SNAP benefits, so they're quite literally taking the food out of children's mouths. It it is a vicious cycle that in 4 years, if Democrats come back in, they're going to go to fund all of these things again, only to possibly lose that funding. So it's an unfortunate political windmill almost that just is spinning and
Yeah.
spinning and spinning. So it really begs the question, and this is why I think things like Pandia Health, like you're doing, are so important, because people need options. And what do you do when the options that you relied on are no longer there for you?
Yeah. No, I want to make sure anybody who wants expert birth control care, Pandia Health, we can deliver to 49 states plus DC. Sorry, Alaska. And we take almost all insurance except for Kaiser for the medication, and including Medicaid in 6 states, but we're expanding as we can. We can prescribe in 15 states, which covers about 70% of the US population, and we encourage birth control and menopause tourism. So the example I give is, we're not in New Jersey or Connecticut, but we are in New York. Who doesn't get to New York once a year that's in New Jersey and Connecticut? And as long as you can get there, put your foot there and be like, I'm in New York right now, fill out the questionnaire, pay $35 once a year, then our doctor in New York can write the prescription, and then we can ship it to 49 states plus DC. And then we have quite reasonable cash options if you don't have insurance, if you need privacy for the medication. But thanks to the Affordable Care Act, no copay, no deductible for any FDA-approved birth control method. Thank you, Obama, Biden. As long as that's still there, because who knows how long it'll last with this administration. Nobody tell them that.
Knock on wood. Very, very much knock on wood. Now, I know you had mentioned it in one of the comments on some of the videos that I put out to promote this, but I hadn't actually heard about the destruction of the pills that you were talking about. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I think a lot of people probably have no idea that this is going on.
I've been bumping my head on the wall to be like, holy moly. So normally I don't swear, but I'm all sorts of expletives. There is $9.7 million of contraceptives, pills, and some IUDs in Belgium that the U.S. Department of State, aka Marco Rubio and Trump, have decided they're going to pay France $200,000 to burn $9.7 million worth of birth control. That medication doesn't expire until 2027 to 2031. Perfectly good medication. And there are nonprofits that have offered to pay to take this off our hands. So why are you burning $9.7 million of taxpayer paid for medications that doesn't expire till 2027, 2031, and that someone is willing to pay you to take it off your hands, but you want to pay France $200,000 to burn this? Hashtag no one voted for this. I don't even think crazy MAGA voted to burn $9.7 million. But this is also an opportunity to educate people that if you are anti-birth control, know that, quote, birth control can be used for not birth control. So 70% of the people using birth control pills are using it for other reasons, in addition to birth control, such as acne. But other medical conditions, 50% of people that start birth control started it for not birth control reasons. And so one of the number one is PCOS. It's, excuse me, polycystic ovarian syndrome. It affects 1 in 10 women. If you're hairy, you have acne, and your periods are irregular, please see a doctor. You probably have PCOS. You're 1 in 10 women that have that situation. But we can use birth control for that. So if you are anti-birth control, which this administration seems to be, then let's give it to a bunch of OB-GYNs that are going to use it for that. And then those people actually have a hard time getting pregnant. And so if you put them on the birth control pill, when they come off, that is the most fertile they're going to be. That is the best time to get them pregnant. So it's used for infertility. And then if you're anti-abortion, it's estimated that with this birth control, they could prevent 100,000 dangerous abortions because they would be, difficult to access in the countries that they were originally targeted for. And then 1 million people plus could have used this to prevent unplanned pregnancy. So there's just no logical reason other than a total misunderstanding of what birth control can be used for, and somebody who just feels like they can burn 9.7 million. What would you do with 9.7 million, Jovan?
Probably fund a bunch of contraception and buy a yacht. But first, contraception.
Yes. But not burn it, right?
Because I think a lot of people don't even know where to get, when something like this happens, they don't even know where to get that information where do you, as a medical professional, where do you go to do that research? Because I'm sure people, without somebody on the internet telling them, they don't know where to go and look this stuff up.
Yeah. No, because I'm passionate about reproductive health and birth control, self-proclaimed goddess of birth control and emergency contraception, I'm on different email lists and I'm following, reproductive health advocates on Blue Sky, on Instagram, on, other kind of social media. It's out there, I believe, on TikTok. But I think what makes me sad is I went to a whole bunch of nonprofits and they're like, oh, well, this administration is just crazy. And I was like, dude, they haven't done it yet. They said it's going to take 2 weeks. If enough of us scream and shake and shake and shake and shake and shake, maybe we could, if they didn't burn half of it, at least we could save half of it, save some of it. Don't just give up. I know that this administration is horrible and they don't listen to anyone, but I think that if somebody could be like, it's just basic math. Do you burn 9.7 million and pay someone 200,000, or do you get money to take that off your hands? Duh,
Yeah, and
right?
it's like you said too. I mean, one of the things is for a group of people that really want birth control or who really want abortions to stop, it seems weird that they're doing all of these things to make it so more people will potentially get pregnant who don't want to be pregnant.
Yes, yes. No, exactly. My professor at UCSF said nothing will get between a person with a uterus and a wanted pregnancy, meaning, dudes, watch out. If she's going to get pregnant, she's going to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And an unwanted pregnancy. That if you make abortions difficult to access or illegal, it doesn't stop them from happening. It just makes them more dangerous. And so I always like to say I'm pro choice, pro reproductive rights, pro the right to abortion, because I'm pro life. Because I know if you make it difficult or illegal, people will take things into their own hands, people will die. And so if you are anti-abortion, you definitely should be pro comprehensive sex ed and free birth control. You should not be burning $9.7 million of taxpayer paid. It's not like they're saving 9.7. They are burning. Like, would we burn 3 buildings and be like, that's like crazy?
And the worst of it is we couple that with now, like in the big beautiful bill, now Planned Parenthood no longer being able to provide services that they've been providing, both contraceptive services, screening services, and abortion services. Now they're unable to provide those things as well. So it's a double whammy for reproductive rights from this administration, starting with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which we know occurred because Donald Trump was able to stack the Supreme Court with conservative judges. Some of who lied about wanting to overturn Roe v. Wade in getting sworn in. And now we have the stripping back of contraception and other reproductive healthcare methods. So it really feels like a lot of people are getting hit from every side of this.
And, it affects everyone. I wear this uterus necklace and I love my feminist dad. He's like, we all came from the womb. You all owe the womb. Don't mess with the womb. Respect the womb. Like 100% of us know somebody with a uterus.
Yeah.
And, we should care and we should be affected. And 90% of, the world is hetero. So 90% are affected when somebody gets pregnant and they don't want to be pregnant, But if I were to get pregnant or raped or whatever, and I then couldn't get what I needed and I did it myself and I died, that affects my husband. That affects my parents. That affects my children. That doesn't just affect me. And it shouldn't take your friend or your mother or whatever to suffer for you to care and to realize that not allowing those of us with uteruses to decide what happens to our body is totally treating us like second-class citizens. We are not here to be your little procreation machine. And it's just, insulting.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, are worried. You have states like Texas, which had trigger laws that are even outlawing for instances of rape or incest. Texas says no, you can't have one. Period. Texas is very much, I know on Pandia Health's website you have a list of states with travel attempting travel bans and travel restrictions, and Texas is one of those states. So you also have the people who went, oh well, we want it to go back to the states. We want people to have, the states to have the rights, but now we want to restrict you from even going to the states that have the rights there. So it feels like an uphill battle. And I think we need to make sure that if we get back to where we were, that we don't get complacent in it, because the Republicans have been planning this for 40 years. Since Roe v. Wade was first put into practice, they said we're coming for it. And so I think we have to make sure that people are aware of everything that's going on legislatively, everything that's going on policy-wise. They need to know the laws in their state. And I think they need to really start boycotting companies that are in support of these politicians and these bills. We need to start boycotting, like with the petition, boycotting these institutions, schooling institutions that are in support of this. We need to just show that people are ready and willing to fight back to get reproductive rights back in the hands of the people.
Yes. I hope everybody will come out for whichever No Kings March is coming up next. I think Labor Day is the next one. And that, we need to come out for everything. I know everything's on fire, and I know, quote, pick your battles, but no, it's all one source of evil. And if we can get rid of that source of evil, that particular person and that particular party, and wake up, and any association with this person who's doing all the badness to all of us, should be connected and burned rather than burning $9.7 million of birth control. So you did ask, what are some good sites to follow? And I should have been specific. So I like the Feminist Majority Foundation. I like Reproductive Freedom for All, used to be NARAL. I love Planned Parenthood. I love the Center for Reproductive Rights. Another good website is What If Roe Fell, or now it's called Roe Fell. And you can go to that website, Google it, and find what is the law in every state. And they keep it up to date every week or so. And then for activism, I generally love fivecalls.org. Change.org has a petition right now for Stop the Burning of Birth Control, but the Feminist Majority Foundation did it too, as well as People for the American Way and Doctors for America. So these are doctors who care about America's health and science and are fighting against these NIH cuts, against these anti-vaxxers, against these mRNA anti-people. And, it's just, as you said, horrific to see our great nation being taken down to like losing all the greatest minds. One of the secrets of this country is we steal the best and the brightest from other countries by bringing them here for their graduate school, for their PhD, and we get cheap labor. PhDs are cheap labor, the students, but because of this whole ICE thing and they're just locking people up, nobody wants to come. And then China and Canada and the UK are stealing our brilliant people because they can't stop their research for 4 years. They will go away and they may never come back.
Yeah, and people need to make sure, you got to make sure you're voting on your state level and local level. Every election that has had, the people of Texas haven't even been able to put reproductive rights on their ballot because Texas has been stopping them. So go show up. Midterms are coming up soon, and a lot of seats in the House and Senate are up for grabs. Make sure that we're not getting complacent. So get the local level. I've said time and time again, the presidency is important, but the House and the Senate is the most important place to put your vote to. So make sure you're getting that vote out. If you still have abortion facilities near you, if you still have Planned Parenthoods, if you still have private practices, I know in Florida, a couple have had to shut down and they're gone now. But if you still have those near you, reach out, see if they're accepting donations, see things that they might need. These are things that like you all we have to do to just make sure that any of this can be rectified. Now, Dr. Yen, before we get to the end of our discussion, we do have a bunch of questions from the people
Awesome.
in the chat. So we're gonna pull up some of those questions now, so we can just answer them and see what people are saying. This
Two
first
more
question,
resources can I put out there?
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
National Network of Abortion Funds. So, like you were saying, there's a fund in every single state. So, whatever state you want to help, like if you have a, predilection for Georgia or Texas, or Louisiana or Kansas, or you have friends or family and you're like, oh, their life is crap, I need to send some money to that state. National Network of Abortion Funds. It's a national thing, but you can also pick each state and do a fundraiser for a specific state. But the reason I bring this up is there was this unfortunate 13-year-old young woman, and she was raped, and she wanted to do a termination. Her mom agreed, but her mom was working 3 jobs and didn't have time to take her and didn't have the money. But if they'd known about the National Network of Abortion Funds, they could have applied, and I'm sure would have all throw down money to help a 13-year-old, prevent badness and do what you want to do. And then to add insult to injury, she got kicked out of school because the fellow 6th, 7th graders couldn't watch their classmate go through a pregnancy that was a result of assault. And it's just so sad. And it could have been prevented if she knew. So please let people know about this fund and then donate, obviously, if you can. And then make sure you know about crisis pregnancy centers. Don't go there. They have white coats on, but they're not doctors. They're actually religious organizations that have sucked our tax dollars and that lie to women about terminations, about how it will make you sterile, make you a drug addict, make you go crazy. All wrong, wrong, wrong.
Yeah. Thank you so much for those resources, because I think a lot of people don't know what's out there. So it's especially coming from a medical professional, a doctor that that they know, oh, I can trust this. It's not just something I see online. Remember, guys, we are taking questions, so get those questions in. Our first question we have, if you're on YouTube, send your questions on YouTube so we can throw those questions up on screen. First question here is from Renegade Sapper. Renegade said, asked you, Dr. Yen, how realistic is mandatory vasectomies for all men in order to prevent abortions?
I don't think you can mandatory sterilization of any group. Though my joke was my dream world is as soon as you're born, we'd put some vas deferens clips. And then once you're ready, we'd unclip you. And that would be a better world. But that's invasive and it's all sorts of bad. So, yeah, no mandatory vasectomies for all men. And the joke is the people that should get vasectomies aren't some people with many wives that have orange hair.
I think, first of all, that's very funny. I think they're asking because it was for a while a defense in abortion debates online, at least, of typically seeing the contradictory nature of most people who are anti-abortion, to hear them go, well, no, I don't think you should do that because that's a person's body. And us going, well, look at that, everybody. Our next question here is from Colin Nixon. I don't even think this is a question. This is just a statement, but that's fine. I'm going to read it anyway because I liked it. Birth control, condoms, and abortion should all be included in healthcare as a baseline standard. Agreed heavily,
Yes.
Colin. Agreed heavily.
Yes. Yes. And know that I think 75% of private insurance does cover abortion because just financially, it's cheaper to cover an abortion than a 10,000 vaginal delivery, 40,000 C-section. And that's not including the pre and postnatal care and the ultrasounds and the cost to society and that family of a pregnancy they didn't want. So whenever insurance doesn't cover birth control, I, as a doctor, write, it's cheaper to pay this $7 pack of birth control than an abortion, $800, than a vaginal, $10,000, than a C-section, $40,000. It's just basic math, dude.
Yeah. It definitely makes the most sense out of any of those. Next is an actual question from Colin. Colin asked this time, are there more options for male birth something? I'm assuming he was trying to say birth control, like a pill or something.
Yes. So there is stuff coming down the line. There is like a reversible vasectomy where they put this thing in the vas deferens where the sperm comes out to the main thing. And that could be dissolved later on. There's also, I think, a pill and a shot, just like there is for those of us born with uteri, to decrease the sperm to the point where there's less chance of getting pregnant. The problem is it's 150 to 200 million shooting out in one shot, and you gotta make sure that goes to 10,000 or less. So it's hard to take it down. And then the joke was they stopped the research study because the dudes were having side effects such as acne or irritability, and women are like, we've had to go through this since the beginning of the pill and you're complaining. But so yes, there is stuff coming down the line. But also, as a person with a uterus, would I trust the other person to do it? Like, if I get pregnant, I'm going to get pregnant. But still, I love that there are options. I love that there are people with penises stepping up to help.
Yeah, I know that I was looking on the other day online, and I saw that there were just clinical trials done of a really promising male birth control. I didn't get a chance to actually read the clinical trials yet because I don't fully understand what I'm looking at when I'm looking at clinical trial paperwork. But I know that it just recently, or not just recently, but I had seen it recently, so that is, that is something to look forward to, guys, as we move along through through 2025. Next we have, let me see what we have next. Get see my questions. Here we go. So this question is from Kimberly. Kimberly said, "What is it that makes these politicians care so much for the child in the womb, but completely neglects the child once born?" Very good question.
Yes,
I
yes.
don't think they actually
Kimberly,
care about the child in the womb. That's my belief.
I absolutely agree that once it's born, they don't care. Kimberly, you hit it spot on. The states that have the most restrictive abortion, most anti abortion, most anti birth control are also the states that have the least amount of support for low income women and children. And the reason why some people terminate their pregnancies is because they can't afford to have another child. So if you want to incentivize someone to continue the pregnancy, don't take away their right to termination, but instead incentivize the having of the baby, get them equal pay, get them child care. I really believe that childcare should be universal and free, and we're seeing that with pre-K programs, et cetera. But again, one party doesn't support this, one party does. And this current administration does not support low income women and children. But if you want people to have the baby, you got to support them. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it makes no sense, but be careful that I don't think it's all politicians. I think it's a certain party. There's one party that believes in helping people when they're down and out. There's one party that believes in public education. There's one party that doesn't believe in government. So why would you ever elect them to government? Just saying.
Yeah. I also want to point out, in my humblest opinion, I don't think these politicians who are voting against reproductive rights, I don't think they care about the baby in the womb. I think it is solely a tool being used to control women. It's being used through typically some religious fundamentalism. I don't think that there's really a care, because what happens is we find politicians who are so anti-abortion, and then we learn that they got someone pregnant and then paid for an abortion for themselves. So I think realistically, when we look at it, at least at the angle that I see, I don't think they actually care about the baby in the womb. I don't think they care about the baby out of the womb either. But that's just my take. Next question. Next question is from I'm gonna say this incorrectly, and I'm so sorry. Ovaltine. Better drink that. Does Ovaltine exist anymore? Ovaltine said,
Good
"What level of
question.
involvement does a company need to be targeted by boycott? CVS donated to Texas Republicans when Roe fell." That's a hard question because it also depends on your ability to boycott. So, for instance, when we say, "Hey, boycott companies like Walmart, who very poorly pay their workers. Their workers they employ the most people on welfare programs of any other employer because they don't pay their employees enough." We understand there are some people who Walmart is your only option. So boycotts have to be within your means. But if you can have a local pharmacy, if you can avoid CVS because they help pay for these things, then boycotting is right up there, something you should do. We've seen what happens when you boycott companies like Target and they get pressure put on them. They feel it. But always only boycott within your means. Your health and safety do come first. So make sure that you are keeping yourself safe, your family safe, if you do plan on boycotting.
Yes. And, it's about hitting them where it matters. And so put your money where your mouth is. And if you can, exactly, boycott all the bad things. Amazon, which funds the politics that is out there, and anyone who advertises on Fox.
Yes. You don't realize how many podcast advertisers also advertise on Ben Shapiro's podcast. So just keep an eye out when you hear when you hear advertisers. They're going where the views are. They don't really care what some companies. You really got to do your research to see if companies are ethical before you start supporting them. And as I said, within your means. If you only live near a Walmart, go to Walmart. Nobody's going to be mad at you for that. Next is a question from Sika. Sika says, hi, Jovan, Doctor, and chat. Here in Brazil, we have a public health system that gives out condoms, birth control pills, and IUD, but we are very far away from the abortion talk. Any suggestions on how to advance?
I think it's really impressive that Mexico has finally legalized abortion. And so I would study the countries that recently have advanced reproductive rights. And I'm, kudos to Latin America for starting the green scarf movement. And I think learn from those that have accomplished it. Check out the Center for Reproductive Rights. I am very focused on the US, but they do international work, and they definitely, I think, are involved and helpful with the Mexico passing the right to abortion. So I think it's awesome that you have a public health system that covers condoms, birth control pills, and IUD. And our federal government does cover that in Title 10 Family Planning Clinics X. But they have cut the funding for a lot of these programs in the United States. But as far as legalizing abortion, I would look to the countries that have recently done it. I would ask them for help, inspiration, follow their example, follow their legal arguments, and definitely hit up the Center for Reproductive Rights.
Next question is from Fire. Fire says, are there funds to help uterus having people access abortions if they have to go out of state or can't afford the care they need?
So that is exactly the National Network of Abortion Funds. So go to NNAF, I believe, .org, National Network of Abortion Funds, or just Google that. It might even be abortion.org. And go there, and you can choose your state, and you can apply and ask them for money. They will pay for housing. They will pay for transportation. They will pay for the procedure if they have the money to do it. So we all need to donate to them, but also don't be afraid to hit them up, and hopefully they can help you gather whatever it is you need. The other thing for people to know that I didn't put out there is plancpills.org. It's a nonprofit. It's a website where you can get medication abortion. And so you can have a medication abortion. You take some pills now, and you take some in like 24 to 48 hours. You can do it over the weekend in your leisure, just like a bad period. And it ranges from $0, because there's people funding that, to $150. And it can be done in all the states. Also know that the protocol is you take both medicines by mouth. If you're in a state where it's legal, then you take it by vagina, because that has fewer side effects. But if you're in a state where it's not legal, know that there is no test if you walk into the ER and you're like, I was pregnant and now I'm unpregnant, but there's issues and I need help with this. There's no test to say whether that was a miscarriage, what we call a spontaneous abortion in medical practice, versus a therapeutic abortion, which is medication or surgery. So currently there is no test to tell the difference. But if you put something in your V then there might be remnants and that'll be an issue. But if you take it in your mouth, you should know whether it's gone or not, and know that there is no test to distinguish between a miscarriage and a termination.
I think that actually also answers our next question from Douglas, who asked what the difference is between abortions and miscarriages other than intent.
Yeah, so medically, we call them the same. One is spontaneous abortion, that's a miscarriage. And then we call TAB, therapeutic abortion, is a surgical and a and or medication one. And so, like you said, the miscarriage is you didn't want it to happen or it happened on its own. And then, because a miscarriage could be like you didn't know you're pregnant, but you were, and then you had a miscarriage, or you were on your way to termination and you miscarried. Supposedly, 30% of pregnancies end up in miscarriages because the body's like, I don't like this. It doesn't need to be here. Just let it go, you know? And then an abortion, therapeutic abortion is surgical or medical, but it's all abortion, technically.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the next question we have here is from Lore. Knights of Lore asked, what does Dr. Yen, if I can get it to actually populate, what does Dr. Yen feel some of the long-term ramifications of researchers leaving the country due to lack of funding, other than the country losing some of the top minds?
So, having these researchers leave the country, it sets them back. So this administration's crazy. People had signed contracts saying you were going to get like a 5-year contract. They had planned on this. They had bought the rats, or they had grown the cells, or they had done the genetic stuff. And then they just pulled the money. I mean, I think all these people should sue the government and be like, you signed a contract and you like backed out. Like, no one does that. That's not respectable or honorable. And I guess that should be expected of this red Cheeto head dude. But other people should be respectable. The U.S. should be respectable. The U.S. should be honorable. And so they had to just stop their research because they don't have money and they can't just, like, I'm a poor PhD student. Like I said, we take advantage of PhD students, and they don't have the money to pay for this mouse lab or these cells, and these cells will die. And to recreate them and then to transport them to a different country. And then once they go to these other countries, they're never coming back. And you know why the United States does so well? It's because of our technology and our science. We fund all the research that other countries benefit. We make most of the drugs. Most of the drugs happen in this country, except for Wegovy, which is another country, and they did really well with that. But we do all of that, and now some other country is going to make all that money, and then we are going to owe that country. And so America's losing what brings us money. America's losing what keeps us safe and healthy. And that is just stupid to do that. Like, why would you, if you want to destroy a country, that's what they're doing. And so we all need to get out and vote every November and then every primary as well. And just like anybody who's anti-science and anybody who supported this big BS bill needs to go.
We're in total agreement there. We have a couple more questions, just a couple more, and then we are going to be out of time. But before those questions, I do just want to read just a couple of these comments that I saw in chat that I thought were really poignant to the conversation. Autocon said, "My mom had to get an illegal abortion back in the 60s, no anesthetic, and she got a massive infection. This is what we're heading back to," which is very true, and something I think I worry about, and Dr. Yen definitely worries about, I would say, from our conversation today. But yeah, we definitely are worried in response to that. And then egoistic altruism said, "No one should be treated like a mandatory incubator. All pregnancy should be voluntary and supported." Absolutely agree with you on that one. And we have two more questions, and then that will be all the time we have for Dr. Yen today. Hopefully, we can get her back on either the weekly news show, as you guys know, or possibly I might ask her to be on the podcast. Who knows? We'll see. I will ask. Will she say yes? We'll find out. Next question comes from, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Taizen Shaku. Taizen Shaku said, my wife had been interested in getting an IUD, but my wife's gyno was a man who didn't believe in giving pain meds, and it failed to insert because of pain. How can she find a gyno who will accommodate?
Yes. So I have been a strong advocate from the beginning that we should absolutely give women pain meds and sedation if necessary for an IUD. And so you just need to call the gyne's office and say, hey, I had a horrible, painful experience. What is the numbing situation you have to offer? Would you give meds in advance? Would you suggest that I get meds in advance? So what I advise for anyone getting the IUD is, one, do it at the end of your period, because the hole is the os to your uterus is already open. And so you just stick it in there. You don't want it on the first day because lots of stuff coming out. But the last day, it's already open, slide it in. But if you can't do that, that's fine. Number two, tell them you want a paracervical block, which means they numb it up when they grab your cervix with the tenaculum. It's numbed up, and people were like, we don't know if it helps or not. The research shows it doesn't make that much difference. And I was like, as a woman, a person with a cervix, I absolutely say err on the side of numbing that sucker up. So absolutely ask if you have a paracervical block. And people are like, well, it takes time. And it's like, so you're going to cut me open with no numbing because it takes time? Like, oh, so wrong. And then if you take 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, assuming you don't have any bad, evil kidneys and you aren't allergic to ibuprofen, and you take it with food, because then it might get an ulcer, but really shouldn't get an ulcer, just from 800 milligrams of ibuprofen, that's the equivalent to a gram of morphine. So if you take that a half an hour ahead, that should be good for some of that kind of pain relief. But again, call and ask, what do they provide? What are they willing to provide? And if they aren't, then like, and if you can't find somebody, hit me up on the socials and tell me what city and state you are. I'll help you find somebody. But just call and ask. And that's the sad part, is you just got to ask ahead of time.
Well, and I did have one more, two more. Somebody asked a question on Instagram that I actually think is really important to answer, especially being a medical doctor. Somebody asked, it's my understanding that there are herbs and roots one can use for early termination. Is this an avenue that should be advocated?
I would say that everybody go to planc.org, planseedpills.org, and just get some of this. It's like 30 to 50 bucks. It's 150 bucks if you want a doctor to talk you through it. But it doesn't expire for 2 years. So just have it sit there, and like, not you, it could be like you and 10 friends. What's the chance that one of you are going to need this? Or 20 friends, all pitching 10 bucks. And then you just have it waiting. Don't go to the herbs and stuff. Like, use FDA tested, approved, though. This is made in India. Some of it, which is totally fine because all our drugs come from India anyway. You know what I mean? But that's what I would do. Don't do the herbal route. There are, you can do actually vacuum aspiration with just a syringe when it's early. And in the old days, women would gather in groups and teach each other, but we don't need that. We got medication abortion. And if you do it within the first 10 to 12 weeks, you don't have to travel. You can do it at home. Yeah. You can do it on the weekend. You can do it on, 3-day weekend, whatever. But know about plancpills.org. In Texas, I think you're not legally allowed to say this. And so they actually made a film called Plan C. And they're like, so I'm not telling you about plancpills.org website. I'm telling you, go watch the movie Plan C, which is all about plancpills.org.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that information for people. And then our last question, which I think is a great one to wrap up for today. This is from Irreverent Hippie. They asked, as a male in a restrictive state, what can I do to help support reproductive rights for the females and women in my state?
As a male in a restrictive state, run for office, vote for people, ask people, lend your male power to the rest of us in speaking out, because sometimes people blow off women, so they might not blow off a male. But also donate. If you can't donate, volunteer, call, boycott, write letters. Just, we shouldn't play politics with health. And this really shouldn't be a political matter. And there are people on all sides that support reproductive rights, and 80% of this country supports birth control. So again, it is ridiculous that they are burning $9.7 million worth of birth control that could prevent 110,000 abortions, and that they are paying someone to burn it when someone is willing to take it off their hands. So please find these petitions, sign these petitions, follow me on social, and I've posted them and I will post them again, these petitions, and I'm sure Jovan will also as well. And just get active, get angry. Don't The Democrats get like sad, but the other side gets active and angry, and we need to get active and angry. We cannot sit, we cannot give up, because we will all just die and it will all suck. We have to wake up and get active and be seen and be heard. Don't be afraid. The protests are fun. We sit out there, we make noise, we make the craziest signs possible, most incendiary stuff you can. But I get it if you can't come out because you fear that you may be retaliated against. I totally get that.
Yeah, and just a reminder, if there are any still reproductive centers in your state, in your area, call them, see how you can support, see if you can donate to help people who are in need. There's a lot you can even do if you are somebody who can't get out to a protest. Like Dr. Yen said, these petitions need to be signed. Call your state representatives. Go to those online things where you put in all the information and then it robocalls them over and over for hours. These are the small things you can do. And remember to vote in your local elections. Local elections are the most important things. The reason why Texas can't get abortion on the ballot, even though 61% of the state is in favor of having abortions, is because of the legislatures and the representatives keeping those sort of things blocked. So remember to vote locally, and that's going to be the best way, in my opinion, to to really push that through. Dr. Yen, I do have your Instagram QR code here on the side so people can go and follow you on Instagram. But what other socials do you have that people can reach out and follow you and get in contact with you and connect with you?
Yeah, I am on TikTok as well, and it's all Dr. Sophia. It's DrSophia Yen, Dr. Sophia Yen. TikTok, Blue Sky. I'm on X, but that's like radically political, so Teen MD if you want to follow that. But I've kind of left that because I don't want to be with the bros. And definitely Facebook and LinkedIn, but really politically rabid wise would be Blue Sky. Pandia Health is on all the different socials if you want info about birth control, about menopause, about women's health. I'm not as politically active, obviously, because it's a for-profit company. But I hope you'll follow us on all of those, and that you'll follow all the good people doing good work, such as Turn Up, such as Center for Reproductive Rights, such as National Network of Abortion Funds, PlanCpills.org. And I shout out for Abortion Action Front, founded by Liz Winstead, who was a co-founder of The Daily Show. She does abortion and reproductive rights with comedy.
Well, is there anything coming up that you are doing that people should know about so they can know to either tune in or that they can support that you're doing pretty soon?
Thank you. I will post those petitions against this burning of birth control on my socials. I hope you all will sign them. I hope you will share them. And I will be speaking in LA. If any of you want to see a talk on perimenopause, or send your aunties or grandmas or mothers or whatever. And I'll also be in New York. And I do have to do a plug so you can look for me. I have a condom bag. And so if you see a condom bag running past you at a concert or in the airport or on the street, I will be in LA and I will be in New York, but I'm generally in Silicon Valley. So hit me up. I'm happy to meet people and talk birth control, menopause, reproductive rights anytime.
Somebody actually, before we end, somebody actually commented, and your response made me go back and find it, and actually said, asked if you could please comment on perimenopause because it's something that everybody's moms go through. So if you did want to take just like 2 seconds quickly to talk on that really quick.
Yes. So know that on average, menopause happens at 52 years old, but it starts like 5 years ahead of that. And so the earliest I would worry about that would be like 45 or maybe 40. Do not let these for-profit companies freak you out at 30, 35, or late 30s. Do not worry about this till 40. But hashtag stop sucking it up. Tell anybody you know with perimenopause, menopause symptoms, stop sucking it up. If you have hot flashes, night sweats, painful sex, urinary symptoms, or at risk for osteoporosis, I'm doctor. I believe in science and drugs. Let me give you the medicine to make this all stop, make your life better. Because when I am 50 and I'm at the top of my game, and I should not be taken out by hot flashes, night sweats, and all this crap. And neither should your mom, neither should your auntie, neither should your grandma. Know that estrogen in the HRT, hormone replacement therapy, does not increase your risk of breast cancer. There's this study that came out and it freaked everybody out. And when they actually looked at it, estrogen alone does not cause the breast cancer. So that's one. And then two, anyone of any age can have just local vaginal estrogen, and that's to prevent recurrent urinary tract infections and what I call sandpaper V during relations. So if you have, I particularly personally had a family member, 70 years old, having recurrent urinary tract infections, put her on vaginal estrogen, recurrent urinary tract infections gone. It's one of the major causes of death in older people is urosepsis. That's when you get a urinary tract infection and it gets your blood. So some people say anybody that's 55 and above that has a vagina or V should have V estrogen to prevent recurrent urinary tract infections. If you want to learn more, follow Pandia Health. There's also Pandia Menopause, but if you find Pandia Health, you should get to Pandia Menopause.
Remember, QR code is right there. Scan it on any device you're not using, guys. Dr. Yen, thank you so much for talking to us, for answering questions, for telling us everything. Remember, guys, fill out those petitions. Go follow Dr. Yen. Go support Pandia Health. These are really important initiatives. Thank you again, Dr. Yen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me and sharing your audience. I really appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching us today. Dr. Yen was a fantastic guest. We're so happy to have her. If you missed this video, like if you came in late, don't worry. Thank you guys for watching. And shout out to my YouTube members. Their names appear on the side. Membership starts at $2.99 and gets you access to early videos, uncensored videos, and members-only content. Also, shout out to Tier 4 members Blaze and Yemye. Tier 4 members get to help choose debate topics, and their contributions go a long way to helping me create higher quality content for all of you. Remember to subscribe for your daily dose of leftist debates, and I'll see you in the next video.